Is it happening? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be so loud. And y'all don't understand. The camera is so close to my face. It's like right here. Um, let me scoot. Hey, y'all. Welcome to, and I know I'm not looking, I'm trying to train myself not to look at the playback and to look into the camera. Okay. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of SaKarra. Why? You're back with me, SaKarra. I'm a little nervous. Actually, I'm lying. I'm not nervous at all because this is my motherfucking house. You know, not like physically. I meant like podcast wise. Okay, let's focus. But I am in my own home right now, and this is Kyan's bed behind me that I never put up. Now he's talking about him in a loft bed after I done spent all this money on this loft bed. But now he's too good for a loft bed. He's too big, and now he's talking about some he want a regular bed. It's a whole nother. That's not part of the podcast. We are here. We're finally back after a way too long hiatus. And we're here to talk about relationships for the relationship season. I know you're like, SaKarra, why relationships? Everybody's podcast is about relationships. And it's like way overdone. The market is oversaturated. And I don't give a heck about what you think. No, I'm just kidding. The part of the reason I really wanted to do a relationship season is because I think we are really undervaluing what it means to be in a relationship. Not just dating, but relationships overall. And they're really not that easy. And I think one of the benefits of this podcast and one of the things I like best is that we do talk about things that people try to oversimplify. And it's like, well, in my experience, this shit has been hard. So that's why I want to talk about it. And I have some really awesome guests this season. And you'll notice this season, this turtleneck a lot. And it's really, sorry, I'm looking at myself again now. And it's really just a coinky dink, okay? Because from the time I recorded the other episodes that you guys will see on video to now, a whole month has passed. But I just so happen to be wearing this turtleneck today. All right. So I'm gonna introduce a new segment to the SaKarra podcast. Did I already lead y'all in? Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of SaKarra. Why you're back with me, your girl SaKarra. And it's a relationship season, so let's get into it. So I stole the let's get into it from Tabitha Brown. Focus. All right. So basically, there's a new thing that I want to do with the podcast. I don't normally take notes, blah, blah, blah. I like to just ramble on. But I wanted to add a little thing where let's just get the things that y'all like to talk about out the way so I can get to the things I want to talk about. And one thing we're going to do today is a new addition to the SaKarra podcast. And it's things I've seen or heard online. So here's some things that I've seen or heard online about relationships that I thought maybe you guys would like to talk about. One, a statistic. So I saw that upwards of 80% of women initiate divorce. No, sorry. 80% of divorces are initiated by women, or somewhere between 60 and 80% of divorces are initiated by women. And the statistic is even higher if the woman is college educated. And I'm just curious to know like what you guys think about that. So I've been mulling around with that. I've been mentioning it to people left and right. And I think about how often I be about to break up with George. Not because he really did anything that was like earth shattering. It's just like that's just my natural inclination. Like he's doing one thing I don't like, he's gotta go. Like, you know, that's just my toxic trait. Luckily for me, and I guess for him, I never act upon it. I never allowed those words to leave. Well, I tell him sometimes I be thinking about like this might be your last time. You keep fucking around with me. But I think that's why men propose and stay with me now. It's such a big deal and it's so important. And I'm about to link two things together, but follow me because y'all smart. This is why I think that women should not be proposing to men. I know that there are women who out there who are liberated. Why can't we propose? Why do I have to wait around? And I'm explaining why. It's for the same reason that women initiate majority of divorces. We have a feeling. We like to act on the feeling. And then we are the type of people that can build a plane after we've already jumped into the sky. Build a boat in the water. You know what I'm saying? Men, as I'm living with one, as I'm raising one, as I'm dealing with men in my life, I'm learning that they like to see the boat. Like women have more far out vision than men do. So they need a little bit more like proof And I think once they make that big leap, it's like they really mean it. They'll do everything but that though. A man will stay with you for 30 years with no with no feeling like, oh, maybe I should marry her. Maybe I should lock it down. Or in the flip side, he'll stay with you in a marriage for 30 years, have 7 little side families, and not divorce instead of just divorcing you, or be cheating on you with everybody at the office instead of just divorcing you. They're not when that big ticket item is not really for them. You know what I'm saying? It takes them a little bit longer to muster the courage or to feel like it's time for me to make the move in that direction. Does that make sense? Y'all get what I'm saying? So I think that's why women initiate majority of the divorces. I think we have a lower threshold for bullshit. I think men will really withstand and put up with so many things. It's very annoying. Or they'll be like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. But instead of fixing it, they will just fix it for themselves instead of fixing it for the unit. But a woman is like, all right, I'm tired, I'm fed up. You're either going to change or I'm going to leave. And the man doesn't change. And so I think that's why we initiate majority of divorces. Okay, I didn't want to stay on this for a long time. Next topic. So the next one said, I left myself terrible notes. The next note says swapping the misbehaved cat. What that means? Oh, I do remember. Okay. I was watching this video on Facebook of another like podcast talk show kind of thing. And basically a woman wrote into Reddit that her boyfriend at the time, no, I think the guy wrote in. He wrote in and said that his girlfriend at the time had a cat. And the cat was really misbehaved. He used to scratch, he used to pee outside the litter box, poop all over the place, throw up. It was a misbehaved cat. And one day she had asked him to babysit the cat while she went out of town for a few days, a weekend or so. And while she was gone, he put her cat up for adoption to a shelter and got her a replacement cat that looked just like her cat. And when she came home, she never knew the difference. And what do you guys think about that? What do y'all think about little lies that doesn't necessarily damage the relationship, but little lies that your partner or spouse will never find out about? Is there a gray area? Is that potentially the formula for a happy relationship or a successful relationship? Not disclosing all the information. So I'm curious to know what you guys think about that. But I thought it was really super interesting. And as far as my perspective on it, okay, so I'm an oversharer, hence the podcast. Definitely in my relationship, I do overshare every little thing that happens to me throughout the day. I do update George about, but I do not think he needs to know everything. I think, and I don't know if it's like, would I take his cat and replace it with another cat? No. And if he did that to me, I would be devastated. Like, I just think on an energy level, that is really effed up. But smaller things like, I don't know, replacing something else he might like that needs to go, a sock or a t-shirt. Like, oh my, if here's an example. Kyan's blue coat. Kyan's his blue coat. He calls it his New York coat. It doesn't matter how many times I wash it, it's always dirty. I noticed it had a rip or a hole down the side. When he wasn't here one day, I threw it in the garbage. I did. I threw it in the garbage. But he's my child. You know what I'm saying? Does the same apply to my spouse? I don't know, y'all. I think so. I think as long as it's not harmful, if the person finds out and it doesn't like ruin, I don't see. This is why we have the relationship season, because relationships are really tricky. And really, another thing I want to come across this season is that no two relationships are the same, and they're not supposed to be. You can be inspired by a very successful relationship. So you can read for hours on end about Michelle and Barack, about Viola Davis and her husband, about Jay-Z, Beyonce, whoever your relationship goals are. You can read about them. Even my boyfriend's parents have been married 35 years. I think we can learn from them, but it would be to our detriment if we try to be them or be like them. They can give us advice on what has worked for them, but every relationship is like a snowflake. It is unique and beautiful on its own. It just like every friendship, it's going to be different. There's going to be nuance. There are things that are going to work only for you and your partner that wouldn't work for their parents, that wouldn't work for your celebrity, inspiration. And I just really want that to be the overall overarching theme. Every individual relationship with your life, like my relationship with my sister is not like my relationship with my brother. And my relationship with my ex is not like my relationship with my current boyfriend. So I think it's really important that we, it's okay for us to be inspired, but we cannot use that inspiration to turn us away. Like, oh, my mother would never do that with my father. Don't let that be the reason you start to ruin your own relationship, because y'all are two unique people and you deserve and you owe it to each other to learn that person. And sometimes you have to learn a person every day. Sometimes he wakes up and he's a different person. I'm like, I'm still fucking with it though. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. What's another thing? Okay. This one says calling your spouse daddy. Okay, sure. Where do we land on the zaddy conversation? I've done it. I have during intercourse. I don't do it often. I have done it in the beginning of our relationship. Um, it's not for me. My father is saved in my phone as daddy, and even though I barely speak to my father, I don't plan on. George is not my father. He's my man, but he ain't my father. Like, it's, to me, it makes me uncomfortable. What do y'all think? Y'all out here calling y'all spouse daddy or poppy, or I call him Papi Chulo all the time. I do. I call him Papi Chulo all the time. But I feel detached from that. I don't feel like that word holds the same weight for me because I'm not in the Latin community. But I just I can't call him daddy. But what y'all think about calling his spouse daddy? All right, let's see what else is on here. Popping out next year with a white man, and in parentheses it says Childish Gambino. Oh, okay. So I'm the worst. So basically, y'all know the whole thing about Childish Gambino, or Donald Glover, where he said he tried to date black women, but black women were not interested in him. So that's how he ended up with, I think his wife is Asian or white. And the same is true for Dave Chappelle's wife is Asian. And what do y'all think about the mixed race relationships? Is this really still even a topic of conversation? I think about the movie, that movie with Eddie Murphy and Lauren London, You People. Like, and I was like, is this really still a thing? But honestly, it is. I've never dated outside of my race. It's it's never happened. Like, it just, and I always wanted to be with a black man, even if he wasn't of my same, cultural ethnic background. But that's just my own personal preference. But what do you guys think about the people who try to date within their race, and because they are a little odd, or a little weird, or maybe they like Korean movies and anime and they dress a different way, do they get a pass, or how does that work? So how long should you keep trying within your own race and it not working out positively for you before you say, okay, I'm ready to try some different colors in the crayon box? You know what I'm saying? Or is this why are we still talking about this? Anybody can date anybody now. I don't know. It's just not always embraced or accepted. So, all right, let's see what else. I have written down. Woman asked man to fill out dating compatibility form. Okay. Are we trying to jump to the front of the line? I saw online where this woman asked this man to fill out a compatibility form before their date, like similar to like if you're on Hinge or you're on Bumble or whatever. So you kind of get an outline of what the person, how much you make, almost like a job interview. I think we have actually taken a lot of the fun out of dating, out of relationships, by trying to learn everything about a person in the beginning. And it's important to learn some things, but if you don't have your intuition turned on, if you don't have what's it called? I'm always saying I have, y'all. if you don't discernment, if you don't have discernment, you can't make that the fault of the other person. If you can't tell which qualities you like and which qualities you don't like, or put yourself in a position to get to know a person, because even if somebody, I was a hiring manager for a long time. Somebody can have an awesome resume. Somebody can even do great the first week on the job. But the longer they're there, the more of their true characteristics start to show. And when you're dating, when you're in a relationship, you always got to, as George would say, have my neck on swivel. You always got to have your head up and your eyes open. You know what I'm saying? Because people change over time. And a lot of times the best foot they put forward was their only foot. So even I think we take a lot of dating is not supposed to be like an interview. Dating is not supposed to be like a you check off these boxes and these bullet points, because in the long term, in the grand scheme of things, the goal is to be with this person. If your goal is to be with this person for a lifetime, or to procreate with this person, or to build a business with this person, no matter, or to build a lifelong friendship with this person, it takes so much wiggle room and so much freedom and flexibility that it's just not going to be accomplished by learning everything in the front end. Especially because I wouldn't even be able, I'm pretty sure if somebody had me fill out some type of like relationship questionnaire before I got into the relationship, I would miss a million of my best qualities, because they're not things that I might even know about myself. And a lot of the best parts of you are what your mate sees in you that you don't see. So it'll be difficult and hard to kind of explain to somebody who that is and what that looks like without actually going through the process of getting your heart broken and learning what you don't like and falling in love and learning what you do like. It becomes difficult to decide what you want. We can say like, yeah, I want a nigga with money. You know what I'm saying? I want him to have a good job. I want him to have his head on his shoulders. But you might also meet a man that has potential to become those things. Or you might meet a man who's in transition to becoming his best self. Or you might be in transition to becoming your best self. So if you are already thinking about the boxes, but you're not thinking about the person, you might actually be closing the door to something really great for you. Or leaving the door open for somebody who got the money or all the material things or physical things that you want, but they don't have the substance of the person that you deserve. So that's my take. That's my 2 cents on that. I'm doing good checking out this list, y'all. See, this the list. Oh, can you see it? Can you see the list? Oh yeah, there you go. All right. So what's next? Okay, Judge Lynn Toller and what I've learned after my relationship with my baby daddy. Never hit a man where he's weak. These notes I left for myself are hilarious. All right, so basically, Judge Lynn Toller, who, rest in peace, her husband, they were together a very long time. He actually just passed away. She was saying that her mother taught her to never hit a man where he's weak. And that's something I've always been very sharp with the tongue. I'm a talker, I'm good with words. And because I'm good with words, I can use them as a weapon or I can use them as a peacemaker. You know what I'm saying? I'm good at stringing together a good sentence. And I'm good in an argument. So I could tear you down, chop you at the knee, chop you at the ankle. You know what I'm saying? But I always thought that was something that gave me power. But as I saw how it broke down the people who I loved because I felt defensive in the moment and I said something, words you can't really take back. So in her talk, she was saying her mother told her to never hit a man where he's weak because he will not recover, and neither will your relationship. And I absolutely 100% agree with this statement. And I said, share my experience about my baby daddy, because that's where I learned it. That's where I learned how powerful my words were. And when somebody leaves themselves open to loving you, and whether they are meant for you or not, whether that is the person you're supposed to be with or not, it's not okay to destroy that person and point out all of their shortcomings and then throw things that they gave to you in confidence back in their face when you're upset. Because as time will pass, you won't be upset again. But now you done already told the nigga that he don't like you know what I'm saying? And so, and I've learned with men, like I said, women have this resilience that's really beautiful. And we assume that because men are taller than us or stronger than us, that they have this emotional resilience or mental resilience also. And I'm learning that they don't. They are fragile, um as we need to be handled with care, because we're dainty and physically fragile. They, and at their core, are fragile, and I think as humans we all have that level of, okay, delicacy, but we don't see it in men, and they're taught to kind of not represent that. But the more you get to know a man, because even on my, what I was like, you could find a hood dude and he'll still sit with you and grease your scalp and watch Lifetime with you. They are all looking for that safe space where they can be vulnerable. So no matter what type of man you have, just try to keep that in the front of your mind. And they really do hold on to something, just like the reason why they won't get divorced, just like the reason why they don't initiate marriages as often, why it's like really they're like proposing is a big deal for them, because they like, I don't really want him to do this, I'm fine with how things are, how they are. If they're going this way and you say something that knocks them off course, it's hard, sometimes almost impossible, to get them back on. Like, girls can have cat fights and argue and really, bitch, you stupid, and piece it up over time, or build a new relationship with that same woman over time. Men, they just kind of, we won't take it too deep. We stick with the same crew. You know what I'm saying? So we do operate different. I know there's this whole thing like gender doesn't exist, but whatever you want to call it, masculine, feminine energy, whatever you want to call it, it operates differently. It does. And you see that very often in relationships. Those energies is more than just sex. Though that energy operates differently. Okay. How we doing, y'all? We doing okay? You still with me? All right, let's move on. You have to let a man be a man and let a dad be a dad. Find a partner you can trust and respect, because he's gonna fuck up. Extend the grace you would want in return. Oh, okay. I guess I was telling myself to tell y'all, I think it's really important to really figure out what is one or two things you really like about the person you're with. Not a long laundry list, not a whole bunch of things. Pick out maybe one physical quality and one non-physical quality of your spouse that you really love, and really think about that thing, because you guys are going to argue. You guys are going to have hard times. You're going to have financial hardship. You're going to have times where you're depressed, when he's depressed. You're going to have times when maybe somebody dies, grief, joy. You're going to have times of lean. You're going to have times of fat. You're going to have so many different seasons in the course of your relationship. Hold tight, hold fast to those one or two qualities you really like. I say one physical and one non-physical, because sometimes when we're arguing, I look over at him and I'll be like, he look good though. Or or if that one physical isn't there, sometimes I think like, okay, but I know he really loves me, or I know he'll take care of me, or I think about that one time when I really need somebody, he was there. Or one thing I really like about George is, and I was just talking about this with my mom, he supports me. No, so I'm sorry. He disagrees with me in a way that I don't feel unsupported. And he's the first person, the only person who I could say does this 100%. He will tell me I'm wrong about something and disagree with me, but not make me feel bad and not make me feel alone or attacked. And he does it so effortlessly. It's just like perfect, spot on. And I hold on to that because I don't always like him. So I really try to reflect back on that I do like about him, and that I know will be hard to find otherwise. So I would say people are gonna F up, and you also have to have your own threshold to like how big of a F up is too big. Like, is it, for me, don't even play with me with the infidelity, because don't even play. I'm not even entertaining that. But like, is it, you weren't there for me when I needed you? Is it, I need you to help out with my child? Is it like, figure out what your standards are, what your threshold for too much is. Don't let somebody surpass that threshold, because that means you're now bending yourself and contorting yourself to make that person happy. Don't let somebody push you beyond that threshold, but give the person grace. within that threshold to be who they are, because they're not going to be robots, and we don't operate on a script, and everybody has their own heart and their own mind, so they'll say and do things that you don't expect. People are not predictable. They're very unpredictable. Even when you think you know somebody, they can pop out tomorrow and be like, I want to be an astronaut, and you have to love them through that. Okay. Whew, it's a long first episode. All right, don't go below the belt. um don't destroy your relationship just because you're angry, because it might be impossible to repair. The next, there's only two more, y'all. Oh wait, there's a few more. Okay. Kanye West nuptials with North too soon. When should you introduce your kid to your relationship? This one's tough for me because I always introduce Kyan early because I trust Kyan's judgment. I really trust. It's just been me and him for a very long time, and he knows me, and I know him. Talking about my son, and I really trust his judgment, and I want him to be comfortable. So I probably introduced him too early um, to people, but I like to just get a vibe. I feel like I be reading energy. I like to just get a vibe. And if it feels a little off, or afterwards, if he's like, something ain't right, not that I'm gonna break up with the person, but I do start to open my eyes a little bit more and be a little bit more keen and kind of watch and listen and pay closer attention to their interactions, to that person's intentions, because children are really remarkable. They're like animals almost, in the sense where, like, if they don't like the way you smell, they're gonna tell you. And they have a good sense. They have that good sixth sense, up to a certain age. And also they're looking from a different perspective than you are. And I think it's important to introduce your spouse, like even with friends, right? If you have really good friends, I wouldn't say introduce your friends to your spouse early in your relationship, because you guys have to build that solid foundation first before you put them, under the judgment, even with their parents, relatives. But it is important to ease. I know people who've been dating 4 years, 3 years, never met the person's parents. I know people who get engaged before meeting that person's parents. I can't do it. I need my mother to lay eyes on you, and it doesn't have to be day one, but after 3 or 4 months, it's time for you to come meet my mama, and it's time for me to take you down south so you can meet the rest of my family. And I think that's important for that person to see all sides of me, because you learn a lot about a person through their friends, through their family, through their children, and then you learn about that person from their interactions with your friends. So that's how I feel about that. Oh shit, where'd the note go? I don't even know where I am right now. I didn't hit a button. Hold on, y'all so patient. So yeah, other things. So over this season, we're going to talk about knowing when and where to accept advice, how relationships are hard AF, your relationship with yourself. Hanif comes on, we talk about slave and trauma bonds. He has this theory that how we formed relationships, or how our relationships were torn apart in slavery, have dictated how people of color choose their spouses, and their resilience or lack thereof in relationships now, like things we put up with because of like lingering slave ancestral trauma bonds. um Relationship must do's. So this is something I asked my followers on Instagram: what are some things you feel like you must do before entering into a serious relationship? And some of the things you guys said were talk about a prenup, live together, make sure you have sex with the person before you marry them. And we're going to get deeper into that. Like, what are some things you have to do with the person before you marry them or make it serious? Is there such thing as a non-serious or open relationship? Is that even really a relationship? And then I wanted to talk about farting. When do you start to feel comfortable? And other little milestones to consider. Like, what are some, like, all right, like, let me tell you something, women. And I said this on my episode of Dating Will Be the Death of Me. You guys make sure you go listen to that. If you don't fart around your spouse, which I do not, I'm sorry, you have to put a gun in my head. Even then, I probably still wouldn't do it. If you don't fart around your spouse, let me tell you something that I found out. You're doing it in your sleep. If he has heard you fart in your sleep, even if you're not doing it when you're awake. All right. Just want to throw that out there. Yeah, and then I wanted to talk about mixed relationships, but not mixed race, like mixed religion, mixed age, mixed socioeconomic status. And that will be our relationship season. I've got 3 guests that are going to come on this season, or yeah, yep, I got 3 guests for this season, and then it's gonna be me, of course. And it's happening, y'all. It's happening finally. And then I want you guys to know after the relationship season, we're gonna get into the sensual season. And that's gonna be all about sexy stuff. Cause y'all know I love talking about sexy stuff every now and again. But we're not just talking about sex itself. We're gonna talk about being sensual and what are some ways to open that. And some people just really haven't fully activated or accessed that part of their body, that part of their mind, and just about the importance and the liberation in being sensual and knowing where you like to be touched, knowing where you like to touch yourself, knowing where you like to touch other people. Like when you master the art of another person's body, the control you have over them and the power you feel within yourself. Okay. So we're going to talk about that after this relationship season. Thank you guys so much for being patient with me, and get ready for another season of SaKarra. Love you. Bye. Okay, make it stop.